This is a video on the Minor Arcana of the Tarot and its structure by Diep Morgan. Copyright 2020, Daijo Bukuma Productions. One thing I've learned in my study of tarot and the occult is that a principle can always be demonstrated no matter the time, place, or conditions. So a principle remains true no matter what the outward circumstances are. And so a principle can be demonstrated in any situation, even here with just an ordinary pencil and lined notebook paper. So what do we know about the Minor Arcana? We know that it's 56 cards, so that's 6 plus 5 equals 11, and we reduce that to 2. So the idea is that the 56 cards of the Minor Arcana help provide us with the wisdom to apply the concepts and principles of the Major Arcana in our material world. So these 56 cards are divided into 4 suits, 4 representing order. And within each of those suits, we have 14 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So ostensibly we have the page, we have the knight, we have the queen, and we have the king, the face cards of the Minor Arcana. So we have 14 cards in all. Now, it's not my intention to go over the individual meanings of each of the cards in the Minor Arcana. That's best done in another video, and besides, any halfway decent website on tarot, numerology, and other occult matters would be able to give you that information anyway. My intention is to look at the nature, structure, and purpose of the Minor Arcana within the tarot. So, 14 is divisible by 1, yes, but that's not here, not the purpose of this video. It's divisible by 2, which is 7. 3, no. 4, no. 5, no. 6, no. 7, yes, which is 2. 7 goes into 14 twice. We'll get back to 2 later. So, with 14 divisible by 2, we have 2 rows of 7. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So, by dividing 14 by 7, we get 2 rows, 1 through 7, 8 through 14. Now, this suggests a kind of duality. We have a higher and we have a lower. So the higher is the first row, the lower is the second row, and its numeric values. Now, we could talk about things like spirit, body, heaven, earth, higher consciousness, lower consciousness, but what I would like to use is essentially the idea of higher self, because I don't think we need to define things too strictly or label things too tightly, and lower self. Now, before I get too far ahead, something to keep in mind, we're looking at a sequence from 1 all the way to 14. You could say, for example, that we start out with the very root or beginning of things. The ace of each suit is considered the root of that suit's elemental power, all the way to 14, the king, which is the external manifestation of all of the understanding of these numbers focused into one, thereby enabling the practitioner of the tarot to truly master the world that they live in. So now, to help gain insight, I need to uncover the microphone here. So now, to help gain insight as to this higher self and lower self, we take the numbers of the higher self, add them all together, and that comes to 27, which by reduction becomes 9. So these cards up here represent the ability to develop a foundation of proper understanding and practice. The lower self here, which also deals with manifestation, it adds up to 77, which is reduced to 7 plus 7 is 14. So we have, let me get this better, we have the individual combined with a proper understanding of order, which then is reduced to 5, and thus we have the great work. So we have the upper as the foundation for everything we need to accomplish the great work, the path of return. We then have to apply or use these various principles here in order to accomplish our great labor. Now, 7 and 2, we then get 7 columns of 2 numbers. And so these 2 numbers are each forming, in effect, a dyad. And we're looking at a transition from the higher self to the lower self. So 1 transition or becomes 8. 2 transitions to 9, or is better understood in a material sense as 9. 3 transitions into 10, and so forth. But it's not a one-way process. These 2 numbers actually continually interact with each other to form a continuum, always cycling, always changing. So in effect, it's the Western occult version of yin and yang. So then we can understand how each of these columns of numbers work. Oh, by the way, something I forgot to mention. When I talk about a number transitioning into another one, from the higher to the lower, a way to understand this is to look at the difference between the 2 numbers, not adding them together, but rather subtracting. So 8 with 1 removed is 7. 9 minus 2 is 7. The difference is 7. 7 is art. And so we're looking at gaining an artistic understanding, or an understanding of the art of how these numbers change from the higher to the lower. And you will find that as you go through these, the difference on all of them is 7. Now, let's find out something of the nature of these transitions from the higher to the lower. When we combine 8 and 1, we have 9. When we combine 9 and 2, or add together 9 and 2, we have 11. When we combine together 10 and 3, we have 13. When we add together 4 and 11, we have 15. 5 and 12 is 17. 6 and 13 is 19. And then 7 and 14 is 21. And then we look at how these reduce even further. 9 remains 9. 11, 1 plus 1 equals 2. 1 plus 3, 4. 1 plus 5, 6. 1 plus 7, 8. 1 plus 9 is 10, or 1. And 2 plus 1 equals 3. So when we look at the results here, we see that in this column, foundation. This one here is 11. Now 11 can be a troubling number because it represents something outside of 10, 10 plus 1. However, when you look at one thing and you compare it with another, or you look at the opposite, from this comparison, this opposition, can come wisdom. Then we have the individual and understanding paired with understanding, which produces order or helps the individual to organize their efforts. We have the individual in the midst of labor, and through their efforts, strife, study, hard work, they achieve a perfection. Then we have the individual combined with art, their personal art and an understanding of the principles of art, which then generates a science of knowledge, practical knowledge. Then we have the individual and foundation. Remember, we were talking about foundation before. So when we have foundation paired with the individual, we come at 10, which is kingdom or realm, and reduces down to 1, which is the individual. So we could say that this is the kingdom or the realm within each of us. Then we pair wisdom with the individual to then create understanding. Now, if we then take the resulting numbers and add them all across, we come up with 105. If we take the even further reduced ones and add those across, they come to 42. And if we treat the 10 as 1 instead of 10, we come up with the result 33. Now, dealing with the 3-digit 1, 0, and 5, we have the individual, we have 0, which can represent nothingness, but can also represent everything. Everything is nothing and nothing is everything. The all, the cosmic all, as referred to by some occultists, combined with 5 of labor or effort, we get the result 6, which is considered perfection. Down here, using the reduced numbers, adding up to 42, we have order plus wisdom, which again yields perfection. Down here with the 10 reduced to 1 and all the numbers added together, we have 33. This is an interesting one because we have understanding paired with understanding. So this is understanding everything and the all, resulting in the perfected state.